I'll never forget the way she laughed when she said it. Light and breezy, like she was chatting about weekend errands. I want to start seeing other men, Brooke announced, her gaze locked on the swirl of red in her wine glass like it held the dream she'd been quietly chasing. It's not that I don't love you, Nick. I've just outgrown what we have. And that was it. 11 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a mortgage, reduced to a sentence fit for a talk show. She even smiled when she saw my jaw tighten. Maybe if I'd begged, maybe if I'd broken down, asked her what I did wrong, she'd have thrown me a scrap of pity. But I didn't. I met her gaze and said, "Then I'll start comparing you to other women." That did it. Her smile vanished. Just the slightest twitch in her face, but enough to let me know I'd hit something real. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her, listening to the whisper of her fingers flying over her phone, screen angled away, the soft glow tucked beneath the covers. She thought she was clever, thought I was blind. She couldn't have been more wrong. I didn't snoop. Not yet. I wanted her to feel safe. I kissed her cheek before I left for work and told her I loved her. She mumbled, "You too." I was already back on her screen, lost in whatever digital world had replaced me. But this isn't the story of a man who got played. This is the story of a man who got ready. See, Brooke always underestimated me. She thought quiet meant weak. Thought plain meant passive. What she didn't know was that quiet men don't break. We build. I told her I might be gone next week for a marketing summit. Her eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. She really thought I was handing her a free pass. While she was giggling over secret texts beneath the dinner table, I was laying groundwork. I hired a PI, Jordan. No questions, no raised eyebrows. Just a curt nod when I said I wanted the works. Names, times, photos, maybe even audio. Standard package, he replied. Discreet. Untraceable. 3 days later, I had it all. Brooke wasn't dipping her toes. She was swimming in it. His name was Travis. Gym trainer. 6 years younger. Bleached teeth. Drove a Dodge Charger and had the nerve to call her baby doll in public. I saw the pictures. My wife. In my car. Wearing lingerie I hadn't seen in over a year. And her face. God, her face. She looked happy. Not curated Instagram happy. Not dinner with your husband happy. No, she looked alive. Like I was the fated chapter she couldn't wait to turn. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was cold. Clear. Focused. I copied everything. Pictures, messages, even a voice memo where she sighed. I wish Nick would stop asking me what's wrong. I'm already gone. He just hasn't figured it out yet. She was right. I hadn't figured it out before. But now I had. And I wasn't going to scream or pack her bags. Brooke wasn't the type to learn from mercy. She needed a lesson carved into memory. Something unforgettable. I wanted ruin, public, precise, and permanent. So I crafted my first move. A dinner party. 10 of our closest. Her sister. My brother. The kind of night made for photos. I pitched it as a celebration, rekindling old connections, surrounded by love. She actually clapped. Maybe you're finally waking up, she said. Oh, Brooke. I was wide awake. And soon, everyone else would be too. She wore that red dress, the one I used to adore. Tight. Low. Her hair curled just right, perfume drifting from her neck, the scent I gave her on our 5th anniversary. Funny how something once sacred can start to make you sick. Guests rolled in around 7. Longtime friends. Claire, her sister, loud as ever with her new fiancé. Jason, my brother, brought his girlfriend. Laughter, wine, easy chatter filled the room while Brooke floated among them like the perfect hostess. She poured drinks, cracked jokes, brushed my arm like love still lived between us. But I didn't smile. Not in a drawer. Not behind a lock. The folder sat right there on the living room bookshelf, disguised as decor. A sleek, leather-bound case with a magnetic flap, blending in like it belonged. Inside, it held everything. Photos, transcripts, GPS logs, and at the very bottom, a single-page letter. My words. Addressed to her. Dated. Signed. Waiting. At exactly 8:20, I tapped my glass. The room fell still. I stood. I just want to say thank you. I began, voice steady. For being here tonight. It means a lot to me, to us. Brooke beamed, raising her glass. To us, she echoed. I held her gaze. Smiled. Yes, to the end of us. The shift in the room was instant. The air thickened. She blinked. Nick, what are you? I've spent the last few weeks watching you, I said. Watching you lie. Watching you sneak around. Watching you wear a mask so well. Even I believed it for a while. But not anymore. A ripple of murmurs. Her smile faltered, then fractured completely. What the hell are you talking about? She snapped, laughter laced with panic. Nick, this isn't funny. I walked to the shelf, pulled the folder free, set it on the table. Read it. She hesitated. Claire leaned forward, opened the flap, and out slid the first photo. Brooke, in Travis's car, her lips on his neck, a timestamp in the corner. Another photo, her in my bathrobe, in his apartment. Then another, her bent over the passenger seat, laughing into her phone. Silence. No one moved. Brooke's face drained to a ghostly white. Her mouth opened, closed, searching for words, for air, for anything to deny what was now undeniable. You're violating my privacy, she whispered. I leaned in. You gave that up when you crawled into his car wearing my shirt. Jason muttered, damn. And then, to make sure no one could pretend it wasn't real, I pressed play on the voice memo. Brooke's voice filled the room. I wish Nick would just disappear. I'm already gone. Still, no one spoke. Claire stood, trembling. You told me you were working late. You lying piece of. Brooke lunged for the folder. Desperate. Like ripping the pages would rewrite the past. But it was done. The truth was out. Her image, shattered. The woman everyone thought they knew, exposed. She screamed. Called me controlling. Accused me of being cold, calculated. You think this makes you a hero? She shrieked. Wine spilling from her glass as she pointed at me. You're pathetic. I didn't flinch. Didn't raise my voice. This doesn't make me a hero, I said calmly. But it makes you unforgettable. She stormed out. Slammed the door. No one followed. Her chair stayed empty. The room, stunned. Silent. And me? I sat down, topped off my wine, and asked, so, who wants dessert? That night, I slept like I hadn't in months. But this wasn't over. Not even close. She thought dinner was the blow. She had no idea what was coming. 2 days later, the fallout began. I didn't make a move. Didn't need to. Our friends did it for me. Claire posted a cryptic story. Blood doesn't make you loyal. I stand with the truth. It racked up over 800 likes, dozens of comments. Half of them tagged Brooke, asking questions. Then came the leak. Someone, I don't know who, shared one of the photos in a private friend group. From there, it spread like wildfire. Group chats, DMs. Even one of her co-workers reached out to me. Is it true? Yeah, it was. Brooke went dark online within 24 hours. Disappeared. She didn't come home. But I knew where she was, Travis's place. That didn't last. Less than a week later, she was back. No makeup. Hair tied up in a messy knot. Sweatpants from a lifetime ago. She looked like someone who'd been drowning for days. Like the world had pulled her under and left her breathless. I need to talk, she said, standing in the doorway like a stray. I didn't move. Why? You done comparing me to your gym rat? Her lips twitched, then dropped. I didn't come to fight. Then what? Forgiveness? Sympathy? She didn't answer. Just looked past me, eyes landing on the framed photo still on the shelf. Our wedding day. I hadn't taken it down. Not for nostalgia. For her to see what she destroyed. You made your point, Nick, she whispered. You humiliated me. You crushed me. I folded my arms. No. I showed them who you are. You embarrassed yourself. Her hands were shaking. Can we just talk? You're talking. No, really. I made a mistake. She hesitated, voice catching. Travis isn't who I thought he was. He's been seeing other women. The whole time. I couldn't help it. I laughed. So you cheated on your husband with a guy who cheats. That's poetic. I was confused, she mumbled. I thought our marriage was already dead. No, I snapped. You didn't try to fix it. You killed it in secret and left me to find the body. She looked like she might cry, but Brooke's tears? They didn't move me anymore. That well had run dry years ago. I miss you, she whispered. I leaned on the doorframe. Do you miss me? Or do you miss stability? Because there's a difference, Brooke. No. I miss you. I messed up. I lost myself and... Stop. I cut her off. You didn't lose yourself. You traded me in. You ran toward whatever made you feel desirable. And now that it's unraveling, you want to come back, as if none of it happened. She didn't argue, just stared at the floor and murmured, Is there even a chance? I looked at her. Really looked. I saw flashes, the laughter, the early years, the promises. Then I saw the photo. Her on top of him. In my car. I heard her voice in that recording again, wishing I'd disappear. No, I said, voice like stone. There's not. Her face collapsed. Brooke, I said, hand on the door, you didn't just cheat. You betrayed everything we built. You burned something sacred, and now you want to warm your hands over the ashes. She didn't say another word, just turned and walked away, shoulders shaking. I closed the door behind her and never opened it again. The next day, I filed for divorce. No announcement, no social media stunts, just clean, quiet action. I signed the papers, handed them to my lawyer, and moved on. Brooke tried to stall, said she needed time, mentioned therapy. Therapy, after she emotionally dismembered our marriage and left it bleeding in the driveway. I told my lawyer to push forward, no delays. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a walking caution sign. Then came the property split. She wanted the house. My house. The same one she crept out of like a thief in the night. She said she needed stability. I gave my lawyer everything. Security cam footage, timestamps, even her own texts. I'd never bring him here, she'd written. That would be cruel. She did. For times. My lawyer chuckled. Said I had enough to sink a ship. I didn't just keep the house. I kept the car, the savings, and Max, our dog. She forgot to list him in the paperwork. Forgot him. The one soul who waited at the door every day, no matter what. At the final mediation, she showed up in black. Like she was mourning. Maybe she was. Maybe it hit her. This wasn't just a breakup. It was the funeral of her fantasy. I didn't speak. The documents did that for me. She signed. I walked out, not just into freedom, but into someone new. See, something changes in a man after betrayal guts him to the bone. You stop fearing the fall. You rebuild with stronger material. I stopped apologizing. I stopped justifying. I stopped giving pieces of myself to people who wouldn't bleed for me. I hit the gym at 6 a.m. every day. Cut the drinking. Tossed every trace of her from the house. Wedding album, her clothes, old letters. Burned them in the fire pit. Not for drama. For closure. Then something wild happened. I started getting noticed. Not because I chased it. Because I stopped. Confidence replaced desperation. Clarity stepped in where confusion used to live. A month later, I went on my first date. Her name was Hannah. No baggage, no layers of false charm. When she laughed, it wasn't polished or staged, it was real. Pure. No performance. No manipulation. Just joy. I didn't say much about Brooke. Just enough to explain why I freeze when someone compliments my eyes or calls me a good man. Words that once felt sweet until they were used as blades. But Hannah didn't pry. She didn't press. She just listened. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Brooke hadn't broken me. She'd released me. Now, whenever her name lights up in my inbox with some new request, can we talk? Or can I stop by to grab a few things? I don't feel rage. I don't feel pity. I feel nothing. And that silence inside me, that is the sweetest revenge of all. 2 weeks later, she tried again. No text. No warning. Just her car in my driveway, like she still had a right to park there. I didn't open the door. I watched through the peephole as she stood there, arms folded, eyes twitching, caught between knocking again or breaking down. After 5 minutes, she slid an envelope under the door. Handwritten. I didn't open it. Dropped it straight into the shredder. Whatever she had to say, it was too late. Her chance to speak came when I begged for the truth, when I stared at the ceiling night after night wondering what I did wrong. She chose silence then. She doesn't get words now. That same night, Jason called. My brother never liked getting involved, but his voice was tight. You might want to check Brooke's socials, he said. I don't, I replied. He sighed. Just know she's rewriting the story. So I looked. There it was. A filtered selfie, red eyes, soft light. Caption, sometimes you lose yourself trying to be everything to someone. I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving. I just needed air to breathe. Now I'm paying the price for trying to be free. Thousands of likes. Comments dripping with sympathy. People calling her brave. Dropping hearts and stay strong, queen, like confetti. I laughed out loud. Of course she'd play the victim. The kind of woman who could burn down a house and still cry about the smoke. I didn't comment. Didn't respond. But I screenshotted every word. Every lie. Every blurry apology curated for an audience that never knew the full story. Because truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits. And I've learned patience. A week later, Travis messaged me. Out of nowhere. Hey man, I didn't know she was married at first. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. I stared at the screen. This clown. He thought that was enough? A sentence to undo months of damage? My wife. My car. My peace. I replied with one line. You'll know how sorry I was when you lose your job. He left me on read. 2 days later, his gym got an anonymous tip, complaints about inappropriate relationships with married clients. The manager? An old friend of mine from college. Small world. Smaller when you've got receipts and connections. Travis was quietly let go. Internal concerns. I didn't throw a party. This wasn't celebration. This was balance. One betrayal settled. One lesson learned. Because healing isn't forgetting. Healing is remembering and using it. And I remembered exactly what Brooke did. She didn't just cheat. She weaponized trust, twisted loyalty into a leash, turned patience into a weakness she thought she could exploit. She counted on my silence, my stillness, thought I'd lay down and choke on the betrayal while she found herself. But I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I lit her fantasy on fire, with calm hands and zero apologies. Now, when I hear couples argue at cafes, or someone says, she'd never do that, I just smile. Because I know better. They always say they won't, until they do. Spring came, as it always does. Birds still sang. Trees bloomed. Life moved on. So did I. But I carried the scar, not as a wound, but as armor. A reminder. I started seeing Hannah more. She didn't try to impress. She didn't play games. And she didn't flinch when the past came up in conversation. She asked real questions. The kind that mattered. She listened not to fix me, but to understand. Then one night, over coffee, she looked at me and asked the one thing no one else had dared. Do you still love her? There was no pause. No, I said. I think I loved a version of her that never actually existed. Hannah nodded. No shock, no judgment. Just a soft, steady peace in her eyes. That's when I knew. I wasn't bleeding anymore. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to prove I'd survived. I already won the day. I walked away and never looked back. Brooke? She's just echoes now. Ghosts can't hurt you once you stop giving them a place to haunt. Funny thing, I heard she moved back in with her mom. Word is, Travis ghosted her. Left her on read for a week, then blocked her on everything. Someone said he's dating a yoga instructor now. Figures. Guys like him don't do consequences. They just leap to the next flame. But Brooke? She was learning now. Slowly. Painfully. The kind of learning that sticks only when your name stops being a memory and becomes a warning. One night, I got a message from an old friend of hers. Someone who stayed neutral during the wreckage. She's not doing well, it read. She cries a lot. Says she messed up the only thing that ever mattered. I left it on read. Because here's a truth people rarely admit. You don't owe closure to the one who cut you open. You don't owe comfort to the one who twisted the blade. You don't owe anything to someone who saw your heart and thought, this looks easy to break. One afternoon, I was clearing out the garage when I found a box. Old wedding mementos. Photos. Trinkets. A time capsule of a love that never really loved me back. I stared at it for a while. Then I burned it. Not with anger. Not for spectacle. Just to let go. For good. The smoke rose into the sky, and I stood there watching it drift, breathing in something that finally felt like freedom. I didn't replace Brooke. I didn't need to. What I rebuilt wasn't about finding someone better. It was about becoming someone stronger. Someone who would never again mistake silence for peace. Who'd never again accept half love or empty promises. Who'd never again beg to be chosen. I saw myself now, and that was enough. To every man still holding on to a woman who lies with ease, who wounds with a smile, who acts like staying is some kind of favor, let her go. There's no glory in clinging to poison. The strongest move you'll ever make is standing up, smiling, and saying, I deserved better. Then walking away, without flinching. A few quiet months passed. Not empty. Peaceful. No more guessing games. No more sudden storms out of nowhere. Just mornings that started light. Even coffee tasted better. Music felt richer. That invisible weight I dragged around, gone. Then, one afternoon, I ran into her. Not planned. Not staged. I had just left a bookstore, one I used to avoid because it reminded me of her, and there she was. Alone on a bench. Pale. Smaller somehow. Like the world had shrunk around her. She saw me and stood up too quickly, nearly dropping her phone. Nick, she breathed. I nodded, calm. Brooke. She took a step closer. Her voice was soft, fragile. You look good. I feel good. A pause. Long, uneasy. I've been in therapy, she said, like that was supposed to change the ending. I said nothing. I've been thinking. About everything. About how I ruined it. Still, I stayed silent. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. I finally spoke. You didn't ruin it. You ruined me. And now that I've rebuilt, there's no space left for you. Her throat bobbed. Eyes glossed. I miss you, she whispered. I looked at her and felt absolutely nothing. No ache. No rage. No pull. Just clarity. You miss who I was, I said. Not who I am. Her lips trembled. Is there really no chance? I shook my head. You buried that chance the night you sent him a heart emoji from our bed. She flinched. Then I did something she didn't expect. I smiled. Calm. Clean. Not bitter. Not cruel. Just honest. Take care of yourself, I said. But don't wait for me to help you anymore. I turned and walked away. No dramatic exit. No slow-motion glance back. Just me, steady, quiet. Heading toward the life she gambled away for a flicker of validation. And right then it hit me. The real revenge wasn't the reveal. It wasn't the stillness, the courtroom victories, or the shredded apologies. It was peace. Peace she'd never taste again. Peace she thought she'd find tangled in someone else's sheets. Only to discover the truth. The grass isn't greener. It's just spray-painted from afar. Step on it, and it crumbles. I didn't win by destroying her. I won by surviving her. So to every man who's been lied to, gaslit, stepped on, told to accept less or leave, don't just leave. Thrive. Because nothing haunts the wrong woman more than the man who became untouchable after she lost him. A year later, I could barely recall the sound of her voice. Not because I forced it out, but because my life had become so full, so steady, so genuine, that there was no room left for echoes. Brooke was a fading dream, blurry, distant, irrelevant. Her last message came on a Tuesday. Just 5 words. Do you think of me? I stared at the screen. Locked my phone. Went back to sipping wine on the balcony with Hannah, who was laughing, really laughing, at something ridiculous I'd said. The breeze was warm. The sunset flawless. Her hand laced in mine like it had always belonged there. No drama. No tension. No double meanings. Just presence. That's what Brooke never understood. Love isn't fireworks and chaos. It's quiet. It's consistent. It's choosing each other, again and again, even when life gets loud and messy. It's building a life, not chasing a thrill. She wanted options. I wanted forever. But forever doesn't wait for the ungrateful. 6 months after the divorce, I sold the house. Bought a new place by the lake. Wide windows, open skies, silence so full it felt like music. I kept one thing from the past. A framed print hanging in my office. The line that sparked it all. Cheating wife didn't expect me to unleash thermonuclear revenge. Every time I glance at it, I remember how deep I sank and how high I rose. So if there's one truth I could carve into the heart of any man sitting in the dark, doubting his worth, wondering if forgiveness will save something already dead, it's this. Let her go. Let her lies rot in their own silence. Let her chase cheap thrills into the void. Let her text you from her pit while you build a kingdom without her. And if she ever asks what happened, just smile and say, you taught me what I'll never accept again. Then close the chapter. And never, ever look back.